Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As I was saying, I'm very happy to get one time the opportunity to be the dear friends of Zikr and Ahlul Bayt Islamic Society of New England, uh, Zikr Shia Muslim Association of University of MIT. And I also, before everything else, I express my condolences for the occasion of first Fatimiyya, the first, the anniversary of the passing away of Hazrat Fatima Salamullah alayha. As Dr. Musalai said, this is a third lecture of the series of the discussing Hazrat Maryam in the Quran. Uh, I will show you more slides when we go through that, but the focus of the verses this day mostly will be these verses. I will kind of explain more when we go through the lecture. So for the blessing, I will start with this verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين ومريم بنت عمران التي أحسنت فرجها فنفخنا فيها من روحنا واصدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه وكانت من القانتين. God cites an example for the faithful, the wife of Pharaoh, when she said, "My Lord, build me a home near you in paradise and deliver me from Pharaoh and his conduct and deliver me from the wrongdoing lot." And Mary, daughter of Imran, who guarded the chastity of her womb, so we breathed into it of our spirit. She confirmed the words of her Lord and his books, and she was one of the obedient. So this is one of the important verses regarding Hazrat Maryam. It is Surah 66 from the Quran. As we discussed the previous lectures, these are the verses in Quran which are about Hazrat Maryam. There are a couple of other verses, maybe her name is mentioned, but most in connection of Hazrat Isa as Isa ibn Maryam. But these are the verses, some information regarding her is there. These are ordered, the chronological order. And the most important one will be Surah 19, Surah Hazrat Maryam, and Surah 3, Surah Al Imran. We are somewhat following the chronological order, but sometimes this is the chronological order of revelation, but also we follow the chronological order of the biography of the life of Hazrat Maryam a little bit, and because her story is also mixed with the story of Hazrat Zachariah and Yahya with the first lecture, we investigated that. The order of the verses, as I said, kind of was like this. We discussed some of these verses last lecture, but I didn't discuss this last two verses, which most probably we do it today. And the focus mostly will be these verses, which is the topic of Annunciation. Annunciation, which is this picture, is a miniature, Islamic miniature about that, is when the angel Gabriel uh, tells Hazrat Maryam that by the decree of God, she will be pregnant to Hazrat Masih, Hazrat Isa. So that's kind of in the Christian church is called Annunciation, announcing the news, what this will happen. But again, there are some discussions of it. Maybe I put it next lecture a little bit. So I'm going to read the verses, the translation that have them in mind. And then the verses coming mainly in two, as I said, two surah, Surah 19, Hazrat Maryam, and Surah 3, Al Imran. And also we have two individual verses, which from Surah Mu'minun and Anbiya, which we're going to look at them. Okay, and so we start with verse 16, Surah Al-Maryam, and mention in the book Mary when she withdrew from her family to an easterly place. Thus did she seclude herself from them, whereupon we sent to her our spirit, and he became incarnate for her as a well-proportioned human. She said, I seek the protection of all beneficent from you, should you be God-weary. He said, I am only a messenger of your Lord, that I may give you a pure son. She said, how shall I have a child, seeing that no human being has ever touched me, nor have I been unchaste? He said, so shall it be. Your Lord says, it is simple for me, and so that we may make him a sign for mankind and mercy from us, and it is a matter already decided. Um, so thus she conceived him, and then we threw him to a distant place. So we kind of, our discussion will be to verse 21, end of 21. 22 and beyond has its own discussion, which will be maybe 2 lectures from now. But then we have a similar concept and a little bit review of what we had last lecture. Maybe a little bit, because I have to say a little bit more, because we last lecture, remember, we saw the discussion of the mother and father of Hazrat Maryam and what the vow they took, because they didn't able to conceive, have a child, and the vow they took to have a child. And then their vow was that if God give them a child, they would dedicate him or her, then he knows whether her or him, to the temple. So kind of, maybe I read from 35, that's okay, a little bit longer, but that's fine. When the wife of Imran said, my Lord, I dedicate it to you in consecration. What is my belly? Accept it from me. Indeed, you are all the all-hearing, the all-knowing. When she bore her, she said, my Lord, I have borne a female child, and God knows better that what she had borne, and the male child which she expected was no match, or is not the same to the female child which she had borne. And I have named her Mary, and I commend her and offspring to you, and I commend her and her offspring to your care against the evil of the outcast Satan. Thereupon her Lord accepted her with gracious acceptance and made her grow up in a worthy fashion, and he charged Zachariah with her care. Whenever Zachariah visited her in the sanctuary, he would find provisions with her. He said, oh, Mary, from where does this come for you? She said, it comes from God. God provides whomever wishes without any reckoning. And then here, Zachariah, we have the story of Zachariah, which is the first lecture, which was Zachariah saw this. He prayed to God to give him Yahya. So that one I'm not going to read, but then the story goes back again to Hazrat Maryam, because we discussed those verses. And when the angel said, oh Mary, God has chosen you and purified you, and he's chosen you above the world's women. This verse is very important. We want to have one lecture devoted to it. So I just read it, but I will discuss it separately. Then, O Mary, be obedient to your Lord and prostrate and bow down with those who bow in worship. These accounts are from the unseen, which we revealed to you, and you were not with them. This is a crucial verse today. These accounts are from the unseen, which we revealed to you, and you were not with them when they were casting lots to see which of them would take charge of Mary's care, nor were you with them when they were contending. When the angel said, O Mary, Allah gives you the good news of a word from him whose name is Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, distinguished in the world and the hereafter, and one of those brought near to God. So I just to filling complete the story. We continue. He will speak to the people in the cradle, and adulthood, and will be one of the righteous. So the angel telling her all these events in future regarding her son Hazrat Isa. She said, my Lord, how shall I have a child, seeing that no human has ever touched me? He said, so it is that God creates whatever he wishes. When he decides on a matter, he just says to it, be, and it is. He will teach him the book and wisdom, the Torah and the Evangel, and he will be an apostle to the children of Israel. He will declare, I have certainly brought you a sign from your Lord. I will create for you the form of a bird out of clay, then I will breathe into it, and it will become a bird by Allah's leave. I will heal the blind and the leper and revive the dead by God's leave. I will tell you what you have eaten, what you have stored in your houses. There is indeed a sign in that for you shall be faithful. So because we don't discuss the story of Hazrat Isa, we maybe not go to these verses, but in this verse 49 of Surah Al Imran, the miracles of Hazrat Masih is really summarized. So this is the Quran summarizing them. Okay, there are 2 verses which I want to, let's read it for now, because they will be important. Look, as I said, the crucial verse which we start is 44 Surah Al Imran. Then we go to those which are about Annunciation. But also we are going to discuss these two verses. This is Surah 23, believers, and is revealed just after, or chronologically after Surah Maryam, before Surah Al Imran. These are Meccan. And it says, وَجَعَلْنَا ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ وَأُمَّهُ آيَةً وَأَوَيْنَاهُمَا إِلَىٰ رَبْوَةٍ ذَاتٍ قَرَارٍ وَمَعِينٍ. Look, this is just one verse. You see the top part is about Hazrat Musa, and then the next one is talking with the prophet. But it says, and we made the son of Mary and his mother a sign and sheltered them in a level highland with flowing water. So this is a crucial part. After the birth of Hazrat Masih, they are placed in a place which is higher altitude, and is good water, flowing water is there. These are a little bit different translations. This one says, and as we made the son of Mary and his mother a symbol of our grace and provided for both an abode in a lofty place of lasting restfulness and unsullied springs. So here is talking about springs, but which are not salty, they're sweet water. The other translation says, and we made the son of Mary and his mother as a sign. We gave them both shelter on high ground, affording rest and security, and furnished with springs. So it's a nice and safe place to live. And the feature of it, I think, is water and greenery. I think we should have in mind. So this is the Surah 23 and verse 50. There is another one which again, is a little bit related to complete the story. We will read it, but it starts with Zachariah. Very often we saw every time Hazrat Maryam is mentioned, also Zachariah and Yahya are mentioned. And remember Zachariah when he cried out to his Lord, "My Lord, do not leave me without an heir. You are the best of inheritors." So he answered his prayer and gave him John, and cured for him his wife of infertility. This is interesting. Let me read it. I say this one because we didn't mention it when we're discussing Hazrat Zachariah's story. So we answered his prayer and gave him John and cured for him his wife of infertility. This is in parentheses. Indeed, they were active in performing good works, and they would supplicate us with eagerness and awe, and were humble before us. And remember her who guarded her chastity. This is now not mentioned, but we understand it must be Hazrat Maryam, because we have when you read the whole verse, there indirectly makes clear that is about Hazrat Maryam. And remember her who guarded her chastity, and so we breathed into her our spirit. So this is breathing into her our spirit, which we saw it before in Al Imran, and made her and her son a sign for all nations. So both are signs for nations. So again, matches the previous verse, which considered them a sign. The part which we didn't discuss it, I just mentioned it there is a hadith. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, we didn't mention it, but it's good to mention it because there are some the mentioning to how was the case that Hazrat the mother of Hazrat Yahya get pregnant, because for a long time they wouldn't, and then concerning verse 2190, when made his wife feet for him. Tafsir Qumi says she did not ministrate, but then she started ministrating. So look, they go back to the verse. Here it says, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ وَهَبْنَا لَهُ يَحْيَى وَأَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ زَوْجَهُ. So this means we kind of remove that medical problem which existed. So just to completing the whole story, I mentioned it because I didn't discuss this before. But let's go back to the focus of our story. Now, look, we were reading from maybe after some of these I have to come back, but we start to read about the ProtoGospel of James. I'm going back and forth today. I want to go to the section we were reading, ProtoGospel of James, and I want to read it back a little bit, and then going back to the Quran, and then it's going back and forth. So mostly today we are doing comparative reading with Bible or other apocryphal sources to see what we can get more or what we can understand more, but to refresh uh, your mind or the people which were not present. The whole library of Bible consists the Old Testament and New Testament. And New Testament, the Gospels are Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. What we use before are mostly either these three synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Today we will look something about Luke and Matthew. And then there is apocryphal books, the biblical or related writings not forming part of the accepted canon of Scripture. So we discussed that what they mean. They are not accepted standard part of the Scripture. They're called apocrypha. Some are looked positively, some are not as positively. So some are accepted. They used to be more accepted. Some are not as much accepted. But we get to that. But to see the relative dating of them, if the ascension or date of Jesus was about between 30 to 33 Common Era. The first of these books was written, the Mark or Merges, and Merges is about 70-71 after Common Era, 40 years after Jesus, they said it is written. The Gospel of Matthew and Luke is written about 90 to 100. We are talking about maybe, these are Western scholarship, okay, 60 to 70 years after death of Jesus. And then we have Proto-Evangelium of James, which is written about now by this timing, which is a little bit late, more than 100 years, 120 years after Jesus. But the point, there are some things, this maybe was in circulating and the stories were existent. We were talking about later on about James. This will be a crucial part of the whole series or new part. And so maybe it is because of some editions, this date is put very later. But the point here is this, Quran, when it's discussing stories of the birth of Hazrat Maryam and birth of Hazrat Isa, is really engaging mostly with two books. The two, maybe I showed to where I put it, just maybe I put it here. Yeah, look, maybe this, I want to show it this later on, but I think this is good to show it. And then we go a little bit back and forth. So you have to be with me because I want to finish it. Look, there will be a movie by Netflix about Hazrat Maryam. And that's interesting. I don't think we have any big budget movie regarding Jesus and Mary in the last 50 years, for a long time, except Mel Gibson. The Mel Gibson movie was another story. He made it himself, so by his own money, and the Hollywood wasn't happy about it. But now Netflix is making a series about Hazrat Maryam. So, and it's coming out December 6th, and it's big budget, and then big actors or actresses. Anthony Hopkins is in it, but also it's controversial because they choose an Israeli actor, a Jewish Israeli actor for Hazrat Maryam, and they say, okay, anyway, that's part of the controversy in this time. But one interesting thing is that Sean Anthony, it's the professor at Ohio State, said, this looks to be heavily, this movie, reliant on the Proto-Evangelium of James, which is what is the book we used last lecture, and we are going to discuss this lecture. Moses movies tend to draw heavily on non-biblical accounts of his life. They have to use non-biblical sources, which Jews have a lot to supplement. But how often has a Christian apocryphon been employed like in a big budget production? So historically, these apocryphons were not paying attention. Used to be popular, but then after a while, maybe people are less aware of them nowadays. Maybe you go to the first few century of Christianity or medieval times, they were known more. But later on, is after Protestant Revolution, I think we only have mostly Bible, these ones, and the general Christians, older Christians are not ever. But this movie is mostly using ProtoGospel of James, and then I kind of replied, and he also liked it too. Look, interestingly, Proto-Evangelium of James has a good level of intertextuality with the Quran. The two Christian texts which Quran has the most intertextuality with them in regarding to the life of Zachariah, John, Mary, and Jesus are the Gospel of Luke and Proto-Evangelium of James, ascribed to the brother of Jesus known as the Just. So I think the reason they need to have some substance to story, and I think the movie made by Iran also was influential. And then the whole Hollywood also wants, because Christians and US are also upset. Hollywood is not much positive toward Christianity, is controlled mostly. Anyway, by secular, liberal, or sometimes hostile to Christian views. And there's and as I said, there's not a big movie by the Hollywood or this kind of studios, this level of actors. And then this story is based on what book we were reading, but there are some changes as I'm going to mention it now. The clip they give out the clip 2 minutes. I prefer not to show. And then the two you can see here, have in mind, because it will be important for today's discussion. This naturally is Mary, and then Jesus is in her arm. But this gentleman is Joseph the Carpenter. And then will be a topic today. Actually, whether he existed or what the situation with him we have to deal with. So we were discussing ProtoGospel of James, and we read it to in parallel with the Quran, and we see the stories of Quran and ProtoGospel of James match each other reasonably well to give us some details which help us to understand the Quran. I mean, to fill in the details, maybe not in the Quran. But the part we want to start is this, and I think it's important. I say it again. They took Hazrat Maryam, the parents, took Hazrat Maryam to the temple when she was 3 years old. They vowed to take her to the temple, the first they want to take it 2 years old. The mother said, let's keep it. And okay, the Joachim said, okay. And then when the child was 3 years old, Joachim is the name of the mother of Hazrat and father of Hazrat Maryam, which we had a discussion about it, and maybe we have to have a discussion a little bit more about the naming too, but I put it for the next lecture. So the father says, let's took him now to 3 years old. And then what they did, and you see that scene in the movie too, they invited some older girls, but Hazrat Maryam is 3 years old. About the girls are 8 years old, they give them a lamp, and then they make a march and put Hazrat Maryam in the middle and take her to the temple. Like the 3-year-olds, when you see a little bit older girls around them, they're attracted to them. Hazrat Maryam moved over there because they worried she started crying, so on. And then they took her over there, they leave it over there, and then she jumped onto altar steps and feel at home. And they consider this all miraculous. And then they left her and they come back, and she was accepted to be there. So you see, the point is that dedication is that she has to live over there because she was female, need a special arrangement. And then we said, Takafful or kafalna, Quran explicit said, Zachariah at this stage get her custodianship at the 3 years old, and then is in charge with Zachariah. Zachariah was a priest, can do the priestly functions. Priestly functions depend on lineage. He should be descendant of Aaron, the prophet, the brother of Moses, and then they have rotations, and they go to do all the, like Khuddam in Haram Imam Reza. So, and then let's go start from here. And Mary was in the temple of the Lord as she were a dove and dwelt there. So kabutar, the doves in the harems, they're there, they feel comfortable. The imagery is like that. She was dove in that dwelt there, and she received food from the hand of angel. Here is also mentioned very briefly, but we have the story what Zachariah asking Mary, where you are getting this food from? And then she said, God gives abundantly to whoever he wants. But this is the part of story is important for us. And that verse 44, Surah Al Imran is important. And when she was, but I will read this, and then we go back to those verses, and again come back here, back and forth. And when she was 12 years old, there was held a council of the priests, saying, behold, Mary has reached the age of 12 years in the temple of the Lord. So she was living inside the temple because she was dedicated. What then shall we do with her, lest perchance she defiled the sanctuary of the Lord? This was exceptional. And if the vow wasn't there, they wouldn't accept it. But because she's becoming adult and the female, and then the monthly habit would be there. And then, as we know, there is restriction to females go to inside the mosques or sanctuaries in that period. They start to think what they have to do. So it kind of means they have to terminate her presence in the temple. And then they need a new custodian. And the Quran mentions the second kafir. And the second kafir is the story here. But the mistake of commentator is they took it against Zachariah without any really good justification, which is already his kafir. Why you need to again become kafir? And and they said to the, so let's read the story here, and then we can see what we can judge. And then they said to the high priest, you stand by the altar of the Lord. The high priest is Zachariah. Still, high priest is Zachariah, or that's also he have the control or charge or so on. And they said to the high priest, you stand by the altar of the Lord, go in and pray concerning her, and whatever the Lord shall manifest unto you, that also we will do. And the high priest went in, taking the robe with the 12 bells into the hair. This is a special dressing they do. Anyway, it's one of the special dressing they wore, and they go to temple, the holy place. And behold, on the holy of holies, they go the inner, like somebody go inside the Kaaba. And he prayed concerning angel of the Lord stood by him. And he prayed concerning angel of the Lord stood by him, saying unto him, and when he's praying, the angel came, and the angel told him, Zachariah, Zachariah, go out and assemble the widows of the people. Okay, here it says those male which have their wives widower, they are widower. Their wives have been died. Whether this is true or modification, which we'll see. For now, it's the idea is that it's really, this word is a little strange, but matching the Christian view, assemble that Christian view, which Hazrat Maryam was virgin to the end, the Catholic view. But they're looking for a kafil, somebody protect her, live with her, and so on. She's a very young girl, and I guess during this time her parents had passed away. Go out, assemble the widows of the people, and let them. About 10 years she was in temple. Go out and assemble the widows of the people, and let them bring each his rod, the one Quran mentions. And to whosoever the Lord shall show a sign, his wife shall she be. So the point is that they want to use a custodian, but the custodian kafil is, it seems more, is officially as a husband, at least nominally he's a husband. And the heralds went out through all this circuit of Judea, and the trumpet of the Lord sounded, and all ran. So they start to announce, and then invited people to come. And I mean, why not necessarily widowers? Why not young people? Because this gospel, as I said, maybe edited, later written, maybe it was oral and later written. The change in the story, as I said, even the story of Karbala, we have differences after a while between what Abi Makhnaf wrote and what in Rosetta Shahada we have. Uh, because in Christianity, this attitude of, marriage is not, consummation and marriage is not very positively looked. They prefer Hazrat Maryam to be virgin to the end, which is, this idea is also kind of spread among Muslims too. But is Islam nothing against is marriage and having children and so on? And they try to make this kafil, this custodian, old. And that's the reason. Maybe he is. There are some reasons he could be old, but at least this is the case here. That could be the case. And the heralds went out through all the circuit of Judea, and the trumpet of the Lord sounded, and all ran. Many people come. And Joseph. Now we come to this character. Look, this character, Joseph the Carpenter, the stepfather of Jesus in Bible, is one of the more enigmas. I think one of the parts which Quran is silent about, and has important role, and one of the challenges to see whether comparative reading will be him. Besides maybe the other issues, which I think Quran reject, for example, crucifixion of divinity or so on very strictly, but here is silent Quran. And I'm thinking indirectly there is a hint, evidence to his existence. My argument today will be he is there, he's real, but Quran preferred not to talk about. There are other examples. Quran will narrate some story which are similar ones in Bibles. Sometimes doesn't mention some important character, especially male. Maybe I mention it again, and Joseph throwing away his axe, so he was a carpenter, went out to meet them, and when they had assembled, they went away to the high priest. The high priest is Zachariah, taking with them the rods. They take the rods with them. Again, Quran says when they throw the rods, you were not there. And he taking the rods of all of them. So he collect all the rods from all of them, into to the temple and prayed. So Zachariah took the rods, go to temple, pray to God. And having ended his prayer, he took the rods and come out and gave them to them, but there was no sign in them. So for now, at the first part, I mean, Quran, it seems there are a lot, which I think film Hazrat Maryam movie has to, which they give the rod and then someone was chosen. The one was chosen is the person, but here maybe uh, uh, they maybe embellish it more, but because they have this kind of miracle before other contexts. But there was no sign in them, and Joseph took his rod last, and behold, a dove came out of the road and flew upon Joseph's head. So there was no sign. They give them the rod back to each, but then suddenly a miracle happens. This sometimes people took it symbolic too, like Shaheen Bacht, the bird of signing of fortune sitting on my shoulder, something like that. You shouldn't. Some people do not read it literally, but it seems it's a miracle. At least the text apparently consider this is a miracle. Joseph took his rod the last, and behold, a dove came out of the road and flew upon Joseph's head. You can read it, but you have to look what the actual wordage is. You can read it not as a miracle, but that he was selected. Somehow his rod was selected. Or you can literally say when they give him the rod open up like magicians and become a dove sitting on his head. And then so Joseph was chosen. Now, the story is that, and the priest, which is Zachariah, said to Joseph, you have been chosen by lot to take into your keeping the virgin of the Lord. So you have to take care of the Mary. But Joseph refused. We don't know is the truth or maybe embellishment, but it could be. Joseph refused. I mean, this imagery is contradictory. You will see that this image of ProtoGospel of James is contradiction with the Gospels. We will see. Because in the Gospels, Joseph is young. Here, they have made him old. So again, because they don't want him Mary, really, so on. But there is nothing of this story of taking custody, throwing the lots and anything temple, nothing in the New Testament, which is also itself very much heavily edited based on some perspectives. But Joseph refused, saying, I have children, I'm an old man, and these children are important. An old man, she's a young girl. I'm afraid lest I become a laughing stock to the sons of Israel. But the priest threatened him, which is Zachariah. He said, this is decreed by God. You don't have much choice. And the priest said to Joseph, I will explain this. Fear the Lord. You fear the Lord. Fear the Lord. What the Lord did to Dathan, Abiram, and Korah. I think some of the sentences are missed, and remember how the earth opened and they were swallowed up on account of their contradiction. Look, I don't need to go to the detailed story, but these are three people in the story of Qarun. Korah is Qarun. They rebelled against Moses. Qarun was very wealthy. His name is coming in Quran. And these two also supported him. And then God punished them. The detailed stories over there. They are fourth generation after Jacob. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, so three generations, fourth, fifth generation from Jacob, Yaqub. So that can tell you how long these Israelites were living in Egypt after the Jacob and Joseph and the brothers went to Egypt. I think 3 generations came, and Moses is belonged to that third or second or fourth generation over there. But the point is that we don't need to go through the detail of that, but the threat is very well known. He understood because they disobeyed God, they stood to the prophet at their own time, they didn't listen to Moses, and then the earth opened up and swallowed up all of them. So that means I just have the story, and now fear, O Joseph, lest Zachariah told Joseph, and now fear, O Joseph, lest the same things happen in your house. And Joseph was afraid and took her into keeping. I mean, we don't know what Zachariah need to really do that, but I think tell him, look, this is serious. You have to take your responsibility, and not only to you, but all your children. Maybe something bad happens if you disobey what God ordered. And Joseph said to Mary, now he took her. And then the point is this, it's what we know, at least from the Bibles, they don't live at near Jerusalem. I will show you the map later on. They don't, which this was in temple. Mary was in Jerusalem, which is more to the central or of the Palestine. They live in the northern part of Palestine, Galilee, Joseph, it seems, Nazareth. And he was a carpenter over there. And so I think he took her there. And Joseph said to Mary, behold, I have received you from the temple of the Lord, and now I leave you in my house and go away to build my buildings, and I shall come to you. The Lord will protect you. Okay, so it seems her business is construction. He took Mary to her household. Maybe his other children are there. I don't know how she can leave her there, but then this part's a little bit unclear. But I leave you over there. She said, I leave you over there in my house, and then I go to my business and coming back. So kind of she wants to be far. He wants to be far from her too. I think I mean, anything nothing happens for her. The Lord will protect you. So. Now, there is one detail, I add it because maybe helps to one part of Quran also we understand. Okay, maybe I have to say, I may apologize because here we are not sure what the house is now because they don't have the child. That we don't know. But maybe still they're living near the temple because the next one suggests they're still near the temple. But Joseph goes away. For whatever reason, Joseph goes away, does the work. But then there is a story which is detailed. I mean, usually for our discussion, we skip it. But I think there is a point in it, maybe can clarify one part of a verse too. And previously I didn't pay attention to it, but let's read this part too. And there was, so it seems Hazrat Maryam has gone out of the temple. Now Joseph, the carpenter, is her new custodian, not Zachariah. Zachariah still is at the temple. I will discuss it again more in the verses. She has to go out. So this takaful is second takaful, and Joseph the carpenter, it seems, take the takaful. But then there was some events going on in the temple. There was a council of the priests saying, let us make a veil for the temple of the Lord. So they want to change the covering the same way we do the covering for Kaaba. And the priests said, call to me the undefiled virgins of the family of David. So they have some view that those who weave this stuff should be the family of David. And also they should be virgin, young girls. And then there are not that many of family of David and not many girls which are not, they're still virgin and not married. And the officers went away and sought and found 7 virgins. Now, this is to emphasize, maybe the story is edited to emphasize Mary still is virgin, at least for a while is, because it's still, as the Masih hasn't born. Even they have to accept that. Everybody accept that. I know the whole character of Joseph make things very complicated, and that's the reason I think Quran is not mentioning. And the priests remember that child Mary. So they remembered, okay, Mary was here, just went out, so she must be still virgin, and maybe from the beginning the custodianship was just formal, and the marriage was formal. And the priest remembered the child Mary, that she was of the family of David and defiled before God. And the officers went away and brought her, and they brought them into the temple of the Lord. And the priest said, okay, they want to weave it, and they have very detailed discussion from the Bible, how you have to do it, what kind of thing you have, thread you have to use, you have to gold, I don't know, silver, white, linen, silk, these stuff all, they're all, and the colors, blue, scarlet, purple, this kind of stuff. And then a part of it, which it seems this must be, this comment is interesting, because so they brought Mary, and then they throw another lot, and then she has to do an important part of it. And they threw purple and scarlet fur to the lot of Mary, and she took them, went away to her house. So it seems, I mean, it could be her house too far away, but it seems they call her, come to the temple, get these things, go home and weave them for the temple. You take the charge of doing this part. Okay. So whether she's still living close, or it's possible she's living in Nazareth. Although Nazareth is not that far from the temple, but it's 130 kilometers, so at least it's a few days walk. But that's the point. But what is adding is that, and at that time, Zacharias was dumb. Okay, so they say Zachariah cannot talk. And then why Zachariah cannot talk? At least the story wants to say that. We don't completely accept the story. The story, remember, we saw what in the biblical story, Zachariah couldn't talk the whole period of pregnancy of Yahya, so 9 months. So that's a hint to the story that, okay, maybe this even start to happen, all suddenly happen, because we know the pregnancy of Mary, I think this is accepted, pregnancy of Mary and pregnancy of her aunt Elizabeth, the wife of Zachariah, mother of Yahya, overlaps. That is the moment Hazrat Maryam gets pregnant. The Elizabeth, her aunt, was 6 months pregnant, something like that, or 6 months. So this could be happening all in a very fast pace, in a short time span. That Mary goes out of the temple, then goes to the house of Joseph, and then called back to get these threads to weave them. Then Hazrat Zachariah had prayed for having a child. The prayer is accepted. Not his wife is pregnant. And then they mention a Samuel, which I don't know, but as Zachariah wasn't functioning as before in the temple, and which Quranically this is not accepted, only 3 days. The Samuel was in place until the time Zachariah spoke, and Mary took the scarlet and span it. But now, then this is a little bit ahead of us, but let me finish this part, then we can go back to Quran. And then so she took, so she's not home. Joseph Carpenter is not here. She's working on those things for the temple, for the veil of the temple. She took the pitcher and went out to fill it with water. So it seems he get out of the house and to get the water, and behold, a voice saying, "Hail, you who has received grace, the Lord is with you, blessed are you among women." So we hear the first annunciation that the angel come telling her, okay, Mary, you are going to be pregnant. And she looked around on the right hand and on the left to see, hence the voice coming, and she went away. So she didn't see anybody, at least this version. So we have to be careful. This version doesn't say, just hearing the voice, and she's scared. Which she went away trembling to her house, which makes sense, and put down the pitcher, and taking the purple, she was the one with weaving. She sat down on her seat and drew it out, and behold, an angel of the Lord stood before her. Now the person appeared in front of her in the house. And then you see some of the paintings are like this. Many older paintings are influenced by the Gospel of James, and that movie will be. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood before her, saying, "Fear not, Mary, for you have found grace before the Lord of all, and you shall conceive according to his word." And she hearing, you see, these parts are similar to Quran, and she reasoned with herself, saying, "Shall I conceive by the Lord, the living God? Shall I bring forth as every woman brings forth?" Uh, uh, here the text is a little bit more different in the Quran. The gospel is closer to Quran. But anyway, and shall I bring forth as every woman brings forth? And the angel of the Lord said, not so, Mary, for the power of the Lord shall overshadow you. Wherefore also that holy things which shall be born of you shall be called the Son of the Most High. Okay, here we see completely, we go into the direction of Christian theology. So some editing, some formulation maybe come through it. But and you shall call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. And Mary said, behold, the servant of the Lord before his face, let it unto me according to your word. Here, actually, the wording is not as surprise, an objection which Mary rose both in Quran and in Gospel Luke. So you see this proto-gospel here, the annunciation is a little bit different. And we kind of near finishing this part, and then we come back to it. And she made the purple and the scarlet and took them to the priest, and the priest blessed her and said, Mary, the Lord God has magnified your name, and you shall be blessed in all the generations of the earth. So so all you see, this is a short time. Joseph is out construction, another city. I still feel I'm not sure where they live by that time. I was maybe later on moving to Nazareth, but he's out. It's possible that temporarily they're living in Jerusalem. He goes to work up north, but later on they move the family closer to where he worked because the works are up north. There is a city they know there lots of construction, Greek city. They work for the Greek Roman employers, so that could be the case. And look, and she made the purple and the scarlet and took them to the priest, and the priest blessed her and said, Mary, the Lord God has magnified your name, you shall be blessed in all the generations of the earth, is a kind of prophecy. And Mary with great joy went to Elizabeth. Okay, we'll come back here. So because the angel has told Mary that not only you are pregnant, but your aunt is also pregnant, but this is not reflected much in this proto-gospel as much. Actually, is more reflected to the actual Gospel of Luke, which we may read that too. But I want to go back to Quran now because let's see whether any of these can help us to see some stuff better. But we have to come back to the both of these two. So if we go back to the Quran, okay, let's see. واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا. This, I mentioned the book Mary when she withdrew from her family to easterly place. This is sometimes is not clear what is meant. Initially, always people, because look, that's what I'm saying. Actually, today in the morning I was saying the verses of Quran doesn't fully tell the story. They are very, very summary. And sometimes the shifts are so fast. For example, we're discussing the Surah to Yusuf. The moment Joseph come into prison and reached to the position of power in Egypt, immediately Quran says, and the brothers came. But till the brothers came to Egypt, at least 7 to 10 years has passed because Joseph reached to power before the 7 good years. And 7 good years have come, and then few years of drought should come. Then the brother need, because of drought coming to Egypt, get some food or grain or something like that. So you're talking at least 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So Quran doesn't mention that. I mean, the history Quran gives is very, sometimes the jumps are big, very short. So most people, because when reading these other verses is about annunciation, they thinking maybe this is just the moment she went out. And I mean, it could be, the verse is that it could be about just the moment when she went out to get water. واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا. But some of the Western scholars say this one, I mean, look, when we read the words, it seems is not as and means fattakhazat, so means connected. So if it is fattakhazat, this means most probably is the one where he went out to get water and bring it. But I know some of the Western scholars say this is referring when she was at the temple, because what's called في الكتاب إذا انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا. They have given some argument that its easterly place could be those 10 years she was in the temple. And that's verse referred to that. And then this فاتخذت is another story. But usually how we read these two very back to back. So then Makan and Sharia must be relative to where she lives. And then, I understand there's like she went get water and then the angel appears. Because if you read it, it's like this. I mentioned in the book, Mary, when she withdrew from her family to an easterly place, thus did she seclude herself from them, whereupon we sent to her our spirit, and he became incarnate for us as her well proportioned human. But look, it could be better to read it like this. واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذت من دونهما حجابا. This is one part of the story. So Maryam went to the temple, and it was hijaban here means was separated from them. That is, he was separated from family. His mother and father don't see him, which is the case. We kind of read this story. Now فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا. So, I mean, the point I'm saying, people think that the time separation between these is few minutes or few hours. But the point is this part, I'm more agreeing with those Muslim scholars. Now, واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذ من دونه حجابا is referring to her stay to the temple. Quran, that here in the surah, this is Surah Al-Maryam. Maybe we have to go back to Surah Al-Imran. We will go. Doesn't say anything about the Lot, about the Joseph, anything. فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا. Then we send our look. Let me tell you. I mean, no matter how many of you are Iranian or the story. Look, like I want to say story of America. Christopher Columbus come find America, and then some British settlers came with the Mayflower, and then George Washington did the independence, and then there was a civil war, and then it was Roosevelt, and now, for example, Trump was elected 47 president. So look, in the few sentences you telling the whole story, maybe the last part Trump, let's put it aside because it's not important. But look, for example, Roosevelt gives a New Deal. So few sentences, but you're talking about 500 years. You're summarizing it. You have to know some of the stories are like that. And then, this Sharqiyan was not very clear to people, but they have argued there are some reasons you consider the temple in Beit al-Muqaddas matches the Sharqiyan. It's very indirect. Okay, if that's the case, hijaban is not the curtain here. Hijaban means because her family, he's talking about family, they don't see her, is away from there, is somehow inside the temple, they don't have access to her, and then she's living for their dedicate for them. Then فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. So the ruh came and appeared as a human being. قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك إن كنت تقيا. Here, her objection is more two level. First, it says, okay, I refuse to the God Rahman that I seek protection for all beneficial from you should you be God very, because she's warning him that behave correctly, God-fearingly. And then he says, قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. But then here you see it's different from the proto-gospel. Proto-gospel, she's more less objecting. But you see the gospel exactly objects. قالت أنا يكون لي غلام ولم يمسسني بشر ولم أكن أكو بغيا. I can have a child. Nobody touched me, and I'm not, unchaste or so on. Then he answered, قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين. This is also more parallelism what Zachariah said, because Zachariah also again said قال رب أنى يكون لي غلام وكانت امرأتي عاقرا. Zachariah was also surprised. Again, the angel answered قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين. So you see parallelism, the verses 7 and 8 of the Surah Al-Maryam, and then we come in the story of Zachariah, and then you have again verses 20, 21 in the same surah for the Maryam herself. قالت أنا يكون لي غلام ولم يمسسني بشر ولم أكن بقيا قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين لنجعله آية للناس ورحمة منا وكان الأمر مقضيا. So this is the part we have in the Surah Maryam, and then Hamalatu. This part is really beyond this, is the pregnancy, and the beyond that, which is more complicated. I mean, we will discuss it later on. And then from Surah Al-Maryam, we go to Surah Al Imran, because this story is also mentioned. Here, we have here, this is, okay, this is story of Zachariah. Then, there is nothing before this here. So nothing about the Sharia, we can get it Surah Al Imran, and so on. Va'ez is a big marker in Quran. It could be complete. Look, we have as here as a marker that structurally tells you is a new story, new event. But we have two other ones. Let me go back, and that's makes Sharian a little bit hard. We have fa is not as big. But بيذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذت من دونهم حجابا. Okay, so this matches this one. But فأرسلنا إليها. I mean, fa again shows a break, something new story or some new event or paragraph. You change the line, go to the beginning of paragraph. But fa is not as strong as is. So this, when the Quran says as, I think people are not writing papers. I saw one paper, I had the idea too, but anyway, this is very crucial to see the stories is breaking. Quran when it says is a new, really new paragraph, new story. So as وإذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله اصطفاك وطهرك واصطفاك على نساء العالمين. This is the important verse. Again, why it's here is mentioned. What is exactly the timing? Maybe is the time she has to get out of the temple, because it's exactly the same moment the Zachariah, after Zachariah prayer has been accepted and his wife is pregnant. Maryam اقنتي لربك واسجدي واركعي مع الراكعين. Then again, ذلك من أنباء الغيب نوحيه إليك. But this is the part which, look, they're competing for تكفل. ما كنت لديهم إذ يلقون أقلامهم أيهم يكفل. This verse is referring to Aqlam, but I think it's a little bit different the way that ProtoGospel written. ProtoGospel shows sign of addition. The same way when you look to the Rosat al-Shahada, the stories get miraculous dimension for the story of Karbala, comparing with Abi Bakr. So there is Aqlam. I think they make a lot. I mean, they choose one. Look, you give your pencils and they go somehow, they take it choosing you. But necessarily no dove coming out. Maybe literally they wrote the dove of fortune sat on his shoulder, but they make it literally a dove really come out. Maybe it come out because still is all miracle here. But the point I want you to look here is ذلك من أنباء نوحيه إليك ما كنت لديهم إذ يلقون أقلامهم أيهم يكفل مريم. Who is going to be the custodian, Maryam? Who will be take charge of Mary? Okay, this is the second takaful. And ما كنت لديهم إذ يختصمون. So the rivalry and jealousy and fighting was more higher. Okay, and then look, what was the first takaful? Is here. إني سمعت فتقبل ربته نباتا وكفلها زكريا. So in the verse 7, when they dedicated to the temple, is not explicitly mentioned. It said, thereupon her Lord accepted her with a gracious acceptance and made her grow up in a worthy fashion, and he judged Zachariah with her care. But whenever Zachariah visited her in the sanctuary, now we know she's in the sanctuary, so takaful is there. So look, the first takaful is Zachariah. This is going to the temple. But the second one that many Mufassirin still keep it with Zachariah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's already, how it could be Zachariah? Because they don't know the detail of story. Just say, okay, the first one is the second. No, this must be somebody else. Because she's living in the temple, and because she's getting adult, and Zachariah still have to continue his priestly duty, and his own family, possibly her parents has died, And all of these suggest that, okay, we have to have somebody else in the story. The Quran doesn't say who won the kafala, who custodianship. Put it silent. And then all the Christian texts are unanimous. This guy is Joseph the Carpenter. But the whole story of Joseph the Carpenter makes the story of miraculous birth of Hazrat Masih complicated. But actually, okay, Quran solving it by the miracle which happens at the time of birth. is قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله يبشرك بكلمة منه. This is the enunciation, which again we read it before, but here just as. Look. So as again means it could be 6 months, 1 year, 2 years later, or maybe 1 day later. So you have look and as يلقون أقلامهم أيهم يكفل مريم وما كنت لديهم إذ يختصمون. إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله يشترك الكلمة منه اسمه المسيح مريم وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة من المقربين. But these are the features. Okay, so I'm saying there are some details missing. Our hadiths are also not very clear, although I haven't prepared the hadiths this time, but last time we would do the Farsi, I looked at it. So what I'm saying is this, because that will be important for that's a new thing, that's a different thing. That will be important what we do. Although, as I said, I'm methodologically against harmonizing with the Bible, but I think these two takafful, verse 44 and 37, must be second person enter in the story, and that is Joseph the Carpenter. And you know, I'm going to talk about the lineage next lecture because there are some interesting. They are somehow relative to whether we can consider Joseph the Carpenter from Ali Imran is a little bit questionable, but it's not far away. So they're relative. That we'll discuss it together. So now, so I'm saying that when you put the verse says, so she at 3 years old goes to temple. She's in the temple to 13 years old. 3 to 13, the kafala is with Zachariah. When he's coming out of the temple, somebody was taking care of her because she was very designated. She was very like considered the gift of God. So who has to be his kafala is important. The ProtoGospel of James, which is written later, or at least we know is edited later, wants to make him old because wants to make certain there is no intimacy between him and Mary. Just the marriage is formal, just protecting, and he has children from previous marriage. But we see Gospels are not like that. We are going to see that. It could be he's old because we don't see him at all in the Gospels. When Jesus is at 30 years old, we don't hear about him. But we hear about him so when is Jesus 13? So maybe he's older than Mary, but was it that old? Because with the Yachtasimun, you feel they really want to. Although that ProtoGospel shows he went over there, he gave his pen, but then I said, "Oh, I don't want it." Or he got scared, but then Zachariah have to threaten him by those historical one. But anyway, as Yachtasimun means they're really competing to get this kefala. It seems they were interested. Maybe they know Maryam is unique. The lineage is unique. Anyway, I want to show you because the problem is this presence of Yusuf Najjar, I think, is one of the most challenging parts of the two stories, Quranic version of Jesus and Mary and biblical one. I initially was not thinking. I'm more inclined to say he's real. Now let's go back a little bit to see the biblical one, and then we come one of the verses. I argue again that he must be true. Look, if we go to biblical one in the Gospels, you see the story is a little bit different. He's young, and the story. So that ProtoGospel of James doesn't have some of the complications, but it still have when we hear that Mary is pregnant, we'll see that. But but the part is this. The Matthew in 2, 3, 4 paragraph have everything in it. So that because most people opening the Bible read this one first, kind of the story summarized and they frame the whole story. But this is how the birth of Jesus, this is the first chapter. This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to the married Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Very fast. I mean, so this is kind of strange. They were engaged. His mother Mary, his Mary was pledged to marrying Joseph and doesn't say how and why. But before they came together, so it doesn't talk about those uh, competition, lot, and coming down the temple. But before they come together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace. He had mind to divorce her quietly. So it seems officially they were together with them, for example, married, but not consummated and not live together. He went to this business to come back. But then during that period, this happened. But after he considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. So the dream is seen by Joseph the Carpenter, the fiance or the one husband to be, and then so he has more important role. If you see, is the role is really with him. So the angel told him she will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord has said through the prophet Isaiah, that the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel. These are quoting from Isaiah from Old Testament, but it's a little bit different variations with it. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. Now, this reading, although I say the English translation could be disputed, means after Jesus was born, they start to have a regular married life, but just the way Jesus was born. I mean, the fact, I know we have differences in the Bible, the most important, the New Testament, the divinity of Jesus and crucifixion, but the whole, this character of Joseph and the brother of Jesus and the family of them is also a difference. And I think this is important. And I think Quran is silent. It doesn't rejecting it. And there are some important things in it, and some of it historically very certain. So that's, I'm thinking this is important part to discuss. And so this story is shocking. When you read it, everybody says how people can believe this. They were engaged, and then anyway, all people that must be natural mechanism for. Uh, they are suspicious here, and then the way Gospel wrote it is not very good. I mean, they open all can of worms or accusation toward themselves. There is a little bit different version, and this is the continuation of the story, which we have it in the ProtoGospel of James 2, that the look, which is Quran, as I said, is most close. Look and ProtoGospel James are more closer to Quran. The wording, the story, the narration, the topic they discuss. And because now other place they discuss the story of Zachariah and Yahya and the birth of Yahya and how the Zachariah prayed, all you find in Luke. Now here is the story of Mary is mentioned. Look, in the 6 months of Elizabeth pregnancy, so we kind of said that there were some overlap. In 6 months of Elizabeth pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth. So here it says is Nazareth. Look, I was not sure at this what I was saying where Mary was living after coming out of the temple. And maybe let me show you the map, because I was going to discuss it later on, but it's good to see the map now. And we read the Surah moment. Look, this is the map of the Palestine at the time of the Jesus. This is the land you see this guy in Israel, they call it Palestine and Samaria. I mean, the new ambassador of US, Mike Huckabee, says there is no Palestine. It's only Judea and Samaria. This is the main part. Gaza is this lower part. So this is the West Bank, and this is Galilee, upper parts, then this is Lebanon, and so on. So Jerusalem is here, and Bethlehem is here, close by. And then, but Nazareth is close here. And then look, the verses in the Quran I just read. Look, the mountainous region you see here, the hills. And look, Israel, if you go to Palestine now, Israel, these parts are beautiful, hilly, green, and luxury. And that's the northern part near the border of Lebanon. All the high-tech industries are here. This is mostly the West Bank, and this is mostly desert. Okay, this West Bank has some mountains, hills, but it's not as green as here, and water here. So that verse of Quran, which explicitly, verse 50, look, verse 50 of Surah Al-Mu'minun, which we read it, likely refers to the residence of Mary, peace be upon her, and Jesus, peace be upon him, after his birth in the village of Nazareth in the Galilee region near the freshwater lake of Galilee. So after the birth, definitely they are in Galilee. So after the birth matches the Bible, because Quran is explicitly mentioned, we put them in a high level place with good running water, good sweet water. But what about before the birth? Is Mary, after coming out of the temple, still is in Jerusalem, or the husband took her to Nazareth? It's possible it is in Jerusalem still, because they call her to give her to do that duty for it. But still, she can travel a few days if it's necessary. But it's surprising, a young girl without her husband. So maybe out of coming temple, they are for a while in Jerusalem. But after the child was born, they move up to Nazareth, and which matches the Quranic view. And then this Lake Tiberias is sweet water, contrary to this sea, which is very salty and lower one. So this is sweet water and is lots of source of water and greenies here, and matches the Quranic verse we saw. And then you see this is a lake. You can see old Lake Tiberias. You can see is hilly, loft, and water. This exactly matches what the Quranic verse says. Like Tiberias, also known as Sea Galilee, is freshwater lake enclosed between Palestine-occupied territories and Golan Heights in Syria. The lake is located 240 meters below sea level, still below sea level, and is considered the second lowest freshwater lake on Earth after the Dead Sea. Oh, Dead Sea also freshwater. So sorry. I thought Dead Sea is not. Okay, Dead Sea is also freshwater. So this one is also freshwater. But the point is that this is greeny. This is much. This is not. This is deserty. Everybody says is not as friend. So that's definitely according to Quranic verse 50 Surah. They live here, but now okay, I'm not sure before the birth. But this Bible, if you trust the Bible, we don't have any Luke Gospel. We don't have any reason to object it. It says in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph. Maybe they did a mistake because only they heard about Nazareth, they call it Nazareth, but maybe it's true. A descendant of David, the virgin's name was Mary. The angel went to her and said, "Greeting, you who are highly favored." Remember the verse of Quran 42 that highly favored is chosen, and so matches the wording of the Quranic, which we're going to discuss that verse. The Lord is with you. Mary was greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be. But the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with your God. You will conceive and give birth to a son. You are to call him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and will reign over Jacob descendants forever. His kingdom will never end." How will this be, Mary asked angel, "since I am a virgin?" Okay, Quran is more poetically say, "Nobody touched me. I wasn't enchased." It hears this, "I'm a virgin." And the angel says, "The Holy Spirit will come on you, and on the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called Son of God." And then even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who was said to be unable to conceive in her 6th month, for no word for God will ever fail. So the angel telling her that Elizabeth, your aunt, is also pregnant, is 6 months pregnant. So that the aunt and the niece are both pregnant. And the Lord's servant Mary answered, Mary, your word to me will be fulfilled. The angel left her. So what is this? It seems Mary rushed to visit Elizabeth. You know, this part of story is a little bit uneasy, but maybe uh, again, hill country. Look, so and when we'll head into the hill country to a town in Judah. So if we go to the map, it seems to come back. Judea is here. If we accept the Bible correct, maybe it is not correct. The gospel. Look, my opinion. I will tell you again. Look, we know after the birth of Jesus they leave here. Okay, but this Gospel of Luke says before the birth of Jesus she's here, and then her husband is going for a work, and then the angel come and tell her you're going to get pregnant, or maybe immediately get pregnant, and then she moved down here. So how a lonely girl, young girl would do that? I'm more inclined saying that she was in the temple. After coming out of the temple, she's living close by in this vicinity, and then the
Okay,
angel
Ghoddoussi, how far is these two locations from each other?
130 kilometer, 130 kilometer,
Okay.
130 kilometer. Yeah, between here, very good question. Between here and here, 130 kilometers. And then, look, I'm really thinking Mary, after this happens, you know, we got visa coming to study. The wife stays at the home country, and then take her later on when we can. So we know the workplace of them is here, because these are lots of construction here. There's a Greek-speaking city here. There are lots of the other places are poor. So these guys are usually working for this Greek language, Roman cities here. So I'm thinking she's in temple. After coming temple, she's temporarily living here still, and she could help to the temple do that weaving work. And then when she hears she's pregnant, moving to the wife of Zachariah, all here. So the story happens here. And that's her husband come back here, because we see in the Gospel of James, he's surprised to see his wife is pregnant. I mean, I know there are some parts of it's complicated, and Quran is silent. Whether we are right to do that, but I think the reason I'm doing that, the reason I think that Joseph is accepted, is said everywhere, and those brothers of Jesus are historical, and they are very important, and some aspect of Shia Islam. So all of these I want to open up next lecture. I know it's a little bit some part of head splitting, but this is the part we kind of need to do. Okay, so look, he said, so, and she, look, in those days Mary arose and went with haste into the hill country to a town in Judah. So I'm thinking the first part is wrong. These guys are mistaken that she's in Nazareth. She's really in Judea. And because they heard Jesus Nazareth, they all think he's from there. So the Holy One, be born, okay. And she entered the house of Zachariah and greeted Elizabeth. I mean, because we have to assume a young girl alone, 13, 14, 15, cannot travel this much alone. And when Elizabeth heard the greeting of Mary, the baby lived in her womb. This story, I think, although yeah, this is an interesting story. Elizabeth was, I would say it because it's something important about Mary too here. Actually, this is important too. And Elizabeth was filled with the Holy, and she exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." Okay, you know, when Mary came in and greeted her aunts, and the excitement, "Oh, I heard you were pregnant," and then she may tell her will be pregnant, and then the child in the stomach of the Elizabeth jumps, leaped with happiness. She's Hazrat Yahya. And then Elizabeth feels some holiness in her, and said with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women," not telling Mary, "You are blessed among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." You know, the children you have is also blessed. And why is this granted to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me? Okay, these parts we don't accept, but it says how much blessed that you, the mother of some Jesus, come visit me. But okay. For behold, when the sound of your greeting came to my ears, the baby in my womb leaped for joy. You understand? The aunt told Mary that, look, when you greeted me, that my baby, my My womb jumped with joy. And blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what is spoken to her from the Lord. And then here Mary talks. I don't want to go through that, but look, we don't have anywhere in the Gospels, anywhere, any saying about Hazrat Maryam. I don't remember hadiths or Shia hadiths also saying Hazrat Maryam said so and so or this wisdom. Compare it with Hazrat Fatima, we have Khutbah Fadakiyah. The only place there are, we discussed it in those series with Farsi, Marian Bible, stuff. There are a couple of words, really single words from her in those whole Gospels, nothing about even her story or something. The only place she talks is this paragraph, which called Magnificat, is like praising a God. It's like Tahmid, Tasbih, all magnificent. Takbir is literally means, but really all. And to be fair, this paragraph, I mean, not fair, this paragraph shows we're dealing with a lady is educated and highly uh, uh, spiritual, very high level of understanding. I mean, it's not comparable to Khutbah Fadakiyah, which is many, many parts long in a very difficult situation, other stuff. But at least, sometimes just one few lines from somebody can understand, okay, this lady is there. And the Christians have worked on it. Always the problem we have, they do a lot, Jews especially, they do a lot with the minimum they have, and then we don't do much with plenty we have. Just this is because we're talking about Mary. This is the one. I read it fast. My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for He has looked on the humble state of His servant. And she's referring to herself. For behold, from now on, all generation will call me blessed, which is true. Which is true. She is kind of blessed by few billion people in the world. Muslims, Christians. For he who is mighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name, and his mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. Fear means minding God, understanding his greatness and doing behaving in front of him the way he deserves to behave in front. He has shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the mighty from their thrones. So these parts of it have some political dimension. You need to exalted those of humble estate. He has filled the hungry with good things, and the rich he has sent away empty. These are really some social implications in them. He has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy, and he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham, and to his offspring forever. And Mary remained with her about 3 months and returned to her home. Okay, this is a little bit odd, but the point tells us they knew Joseph which is out for a few months. And then it seems Mary stays to Elizabeth delivers, because 3 months makes it 9 months, if we accept this. And then she went back home. Now, when she back home, she's about 3 months pregnant. So maybe they stay together. The first trimester is hard too, so they help each other. But still, I believe Mary couldn't be that far, and I think mostly in Judea. So we have this in Proto-Gospel of James 2, because the reaction of Joseph when coming back, that's important. I'm not going to go read other places, but and we kind of finished soon. Oh, yeah, I'll finish in a few minutes.
Dr.
You know,
Ghoddoussi,
yes,
we have not received any questions. So again, take your time. Just
thank you.
whatever you like. We have till 9, another half an hour, but
Thank
just
you. I would try. Thank you. Thank you. I just this is the dramatic part, because now okay, look, this is the part I repeat the story of meeting with Elizabeth. And Mary with great joy went away to Elizabeth, her kinswoman, so which is her aunt, mother of Yahya, wife of Zachariah, and knocked at the door. And when Elizabeth heard her, she threw away the scarlet and ran to the door and opened it. And it's, I don't know. Okay, throw away scarlet, maybe the cover of her face. I don't know. Uh, 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 I don't know what scarlet exactly mean here. So, and ran to the door and opened it, and seeing Mary, she blessed her and said, "Hence is this to me that the mother of my Lord should come to me." So you see the same verse you saw in the Gospel of Luke, and these two are closest together and also closest to the Quran. If you want to some metric, should come to me. For behold, that which is me, live with and bless you. So that's we saw the same verses in Luke. But Mary had forgotten the mysteries of which the archangel Gabriel had spoken, and gazed up into heaven and said, "Who am I, O Lord, that all the generations of the earth should bless me?" And she remained 3 months with Elizabeth. So this one also says she remained with Elizabeth 3 months, and day by day she grew bigger. And Mary, being afraid, went away to her own house and hid herself from the sons of Israel. And she was 16 years old when these mysteries happened. So, so timing is a little bit more now here. Maybe, I mean, maybe coming out of Temple 13, this becomes 16. Uh, uh, could it be so for a few years he was living? I mean, these are some ambiguities here, so it makes question because for if it was 13 coming out of the temple, he must be living with the Joseph the Carpenter for 3 years. Was that carpenter going away back and forth for every year for a few months? That's a possibility. But anyway, let's go forward. And was in her 6th month, and behold, Joseph came back. So Joseph wasn't there for a long time, at least for a 6-month trip, he wasn't there. And then I'm saying it's most probable she's still living in the southern part, Judea, from his building construction thing and entering to his house, and he discovered that she was big with child. And he smote his face, the guy smote his own face, and threw himself on the ground upon the sackcloth, and wept bitterly, saying, "With what face shall I look upon the Lord my God? Or what prayer shall I make about this maiden?" Because she was responsible, it seems, I don't know if we accept the arrangement, was that she be custodian of her, no relationship, but formal mahramiyat, something like that. But now she's pregnant, and then he thought it wouldn't happen. But I don't know how the house was running. You know, they have servants. It doesn't look that rich. Where the other children are, you know, these are some questions which are, these texts are ambiguous. So sometimes pushing Quran to match it is not. Uh, I mean, how much we can harmonize that issue of Joseph is complicated one. Because I received her a virgin out of the temple of the Lord, and I have not watched over her. Who is that has hunted me down? Who has done this evil thing in my house and defiled the virgin? Has not the history of Adam been repeated in me? Now he filled his sin and will punish. For just as Adam was in the hour of singing praise, and the serpent came and found Eve alone and completely deceived her, so it has happened to me also. And Joseph stood up from the sackcloth and called Mary and said to her, "O you has been cared for by God. Why have you done this and forgotten the Lord your God? Why have you brought low your soul, you that was brought up in the Holy of Holies and that received food from the hand of angel?" So this matched the Quranic part, you know, that is because all those blessings Mary had, now they are saying, why, despite of this happened? And she wept bitterly and saying, "I am innocent and have known no man." And Joseph said to her, "Hence then is that which is your womb." You know, so somehow Joseph trusted her and said, "As the Lord my God lives, I do not know, hence it is to me." Now, the answer is a little bit not right, because she knows. I mean, angel came telling her, I think 6 months with Elizabeth. So the answer is not right. So that means, again, whether editing happened or how we can trust the text. And Joseph was greatly afraid and retired from her and considered what she should do in regard to her. And Joseph said, "If I conceal her sin, I find myself fighting against the law of the Lord." You know, there were some regulations Israelite had, and then so uh, because if this happened, you know, during the uh, engagement period, this happens, they have some regulation how to have to do it, how to annul the wedding or marriage or something. I find myself fighting against the law of the Lord, and if I expose her to the sons of Israel, I'm afraid lest that which is inherit me from an angel, and I shall be found giving up innocent blood to the doom of death. But here means, when it says what is inherit from an angel, means maybe Mary tell her the story. You know, in that sense, tell her the story that the angel come and angel told me that you're getting pregnant, but I don't know the detailed mechanism. In that sense, Mary can be right that she said, as the Lord my God lives, I do not know, hence it is to me. I don't know what was the mechanism. So I don't know this mechanism, how the microphone works in sending the message, but okay, it works. And then this has happened. And Joseph said, if I conceal her sin, okay, so I'm afraid lest that which is in her be from an angel, I shall be found giving up innocent blood to doom of death. So she doesn't know what to have to do. I mean, to cover it up, he doesn't know what to have to do. Cover it up, and I'm saying, what then shall I do with her? I will put her away from me secretly. Secretly. That's he thinks she wants to somehow separate. But at night came upon him, and behold, an angel of the Lord appears to him in a dream. So this is like Matthew saying, "Be not afraid for this maiden, for that which is in her is of the Holy Spirit, and she will bring forth a son, and you shall call his name glorified the Jesus, for he will save his people from the God of Israel, who had gave him the sins." Matthew. And Joseph arose from sleep and grace, and he kept her. So now look, the point of this is this. This Joseph, and then we will see the brother of Jesus, which are important, the family of Mary is important. But at this stage, his presence, his engagement brings a question whether the birth of Jesus is miraculous, but we know the Quran has solved that. The Quran is completely silent. We are going to read. Everywhere his presence is eliminated, even in hadith also. I don't see categorically denying him or categorically proving him. But I said, except couple of anecdote ones that they live in Nazareth after that, which matches the story of the Quran. The fact they are known as being carpenter, Jesus also known as carpenter, Joseph his father, stepfather is carpenter. Uh, the woman alone cannot usually leave at that time. You know, either some uncle, some other people should adopted her or be guardian of her. Uh, Many details are ambiguous or not clear about Joseph, which we can because Quran is silent. The only argument I have, Quran is also silent about some other male figures, which we are more certain about them. And so we have to know what Quran does to these stories. One male figure we are not sure Quran is silent about them is the Moses father. The Moses father, I haven't shown the slides, but in the Bible has much more important role uh, in the whole story of Moses. But in the Quran, there is no trace of him, even not name mentioned. Everything is with the mother and the sister of Moses, Miriam. They are worried. They are putting it in the box on the river, uh, and then capturing her. So God sends a revelation to the mother. So no mention of the father of Moses, not at all, not at all. So that's one character. Which you go to Old Testament, he's very more important. Reference is eliminated. The second example we have is the Imran. Although Imran name is mentioned, but we saw Joachim has much more important role in the story. Important role, not more important, but important role in the story of Mary. He went to the desert. He was fasting. Angels come to him that go home. You're going to pregnant. They went to the temple. We all see ProtoGospel of James. And Quran only mention his name, and all reference to his Maryam, daughter of Imran, or her mother, wife of Imran. So again, no mentioning of Imran. And this could be the third example. There may be a Joseph Carpenter become the custodian, fiance of Mary, but it's not mentioned. But you see the contradiction. ProtoGospel of James make him old. The Gospels clearly make him young. And in the Gospels, he's a regular engaged. It is a regular engagement, regular fiance. They're going to marry. And the ProtoGospel of James is a formal custodianship. But I believe that verse of the Quran, 44 Surah Al Imran, talking about second takaful, bring a second person to the story, and you kafil, which is not Zachariah. It doesn't match with style of Quran, and it makes sense all logically. There must be a new person. I'm saying that new person is Zachariah. which Joseph the Carpenter. Quran doesn't mention him, but أعلم أيهم يكفل مريم وما كنتم لديهم إذ يختصمون. So this is one indirect hint to Joseph Carpenter, and the fact they are settled in Galilee also matches the stories. Again, Mary after the Jesus shouldn't leave alone, and then now we know is settled in Galilee, which is exactly the place Nazareth or so on near the Lake Galilee is there. And then in Islam there is no problem, before the virginhood per se is not a virtue. Hazrat Fatima has 4 children, is not necessary. So after the birth of Jesus, Hazrat Maryam can have married, have children. But although we will see next lecture, most Christians are different in it. Protestants are the one literally accept that after birth of Jesus, they live like a regular husband and wife. They may have children, and just Jesus was born differently. So that's the story for now. I'll stop here. But I'm saying this is the challenging one. Either I know some people want to totally reject it, but some of it because we are under a Christian idea of the virginity of Mary forever, which is not Islamic idea. Catholics for a long time believe in it. Most of the Muslims deal with the Christians, which are Catholic or Orthodox. The Protestants recently, we'll see it maybe next lecture, at least they're the most receptive to that Mary wasn't virgin to the ever. But the point I'm saying, nothing forbids that we can have miraculous birth for Jesus, and that miraculous birth is supported by the miraculous speaking at the time of birth. But still, I understand the presence of a man maybe makes it complicated. But I'm saying presence of when some lady come with a child, whether has a husband or had an engaged or not engaged, doesn't matter much. You always bring the question that the cause of pregnancy is a natural mechanism. So you need an evidence, strong evidence it is not, which is that miracle which Quran says in the next verses, Jesus talking to them. Now, I don't think the story would be different much. Whether that, as I said, Mary was married or engaged or none of these. So, I'm putting some obstacles accepting Joseph. I am pushing to say there was some Joseph the Carpenter, and then there's family is real because I think family is important. I appreciate your time. I know it's some detail going through and it's long, but very thankful for your patience. Maybe I finish by the verse I usually do. I think it's good to finish it with that verse. Uh, sorry, it will be. Yeah. Uh, this is the verse also we are going to discuss in one lecture about it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله اصطفاك وطهرك واصطفاك على نساء العالمين يا مريم اقنتي لربك واسجدي واركعي مع الراكعين. Thank you very much.